All right, people, welcome back. This is the second episode in the assisting videos that I'm doing for the final assignment in the ADS course, the D0005A course. This is what we got so far. We got the side surfaces, and we've already discussed symmetric modeling and also using oversized surfaces. And before we start rounding off and carving out our final shape, I want to add a top surface to these, let's call them boundary surfaces or whatever. And we're going to do so by using monorail, part of the rail tool, which I do believe you're familiar with already, but let's do it anyway. So I'm going to start by adding a generation curve, and I'm going to press F6 in order to look at it from the XZ direction, like so. And again, for this curve, I'm going to use symmetric modeling. So I start by clicking out a new CV curve, something like this, maybe. Not really sure. It doesn't really matter for this example. And in order to make this a symmetric curve, I'm going to add it to my curves layer to begin with. So assign objects, so it's in that layer right there. And now I can go to the perspective view and see what's actually happening here. And in order to make this a symmetric curve over the YZ plane, I need to check that my curves layer has the correct symmetry plane set. And since we did that in the previous episode, we know that it does, but let's double check it. And yes, the yellow symbol here is enlightened, and you can see that this is our YZ plane, which is our symmetry plane. So let's go pick nothing and pick curve and set that to, by using object edit and symmetric modeling. And that did not work. Let's see. Picker assigned to that layer, like so. And that needs to be active, and then we go pick curve and object editing symmetric modeling. There we go. So now we have a symmetric curve that we are going to use as our generation curve for the monorail. We also need a rail curve, so I'm gonna hit the F7 function, a button here, and look at it from the side and decide what kind of shape do I want when looking at it from the side. So I'm going to click out a curve here as well. We can try to make that a bit more fun shape-wise. So it's a lot thinner in this end than it is in this end right here. Okay, so now we have two curves. One generation curve right here and one rail curve here. So let's bring out the rail surface tool in the options box here and make sure I only have one generation curve and one rail curve. So I want to sweep this curve along this rail curve, and instantly a surface appears here. So if we'll put some color to it, we can clearly see it there. Now, please note that, let's undo that. that these two curves, when using the monorail, do not need to intersect. You can clearly see that they don't here. This one is a lot higher than that one. So the question is, which curve does it adapt to? Well, if we look here in the control window, we can see there is a parameter here called fixed curve. And in this case, it's going to fix the rail curve and move the generation curve down to the rail curve. So let's have a look at that. We sweep that one along this one and check. Does it now follow our, how can we see that best? There's some color to it. Does it follow our rail curve? Yes, it does. What happens if I choose the generation curve there instead? Well, it moves down to the generation curve. So now the generation curve determines on what height this surface should be. So let's set that back to rail once again. And I want you to be aware now that this surface actually has a history. And if we start manipulating the rail curve, this one, for instance, and start moving this CV point, it's going to update our rail surface as well, which is kind of nice. So as long as you keep the history of your surfaces and curves, you can later on manipulate them and have the geometry updated. So let's once again, let's get rid of the curves, at least visually. I did want my surface though. So pick surface, put that in the surface layer, so, and hide away the curves. So this is what we got now. This is a typical holistic model where I try to capture my shape using oversized surfaces. And in the next episode, we are going to start rounding off both the corners here, but also the edge that forms up here. So see you then.